Pretend there's a flag.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Jeff Hewlett, would you do the four-way test for us?
Sure. You know, it's been kind of a custom these last few years at our installations to give a little bit of a history of the four-way test, and I'm going to do that very, very briefly. Back in 1932, a fellow named Herbert Taylor was given the task of bringing back a company from bankruptcy, from near bankruptcy. It was a company that dealt with housewares and cooking supplies, and he knew that there were other companies out there that had just as good a product as them, but he decided that perhaps they could distinguish themselves by through their character and their devotion to service. And so he came up with this four-way test for the employees of that company. And Herbert Taylor went on to become a Rotary International president years later. And in 1943, Rotary adopted the four-way test. And it is a test of everything that we think, say, or do. And please recite it with me. Number one, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Number two, is it
fair
fair? Number three, will it build
goodwill and better friendships?
Number four,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
All concerned.
and of course, number five, is it
Is it
fun?
fun?
All right, thanks, Jeff. And
Sure.
Daniel, Duskin, would you do the invocation for us?
Yes, indeed. Just coming out of the 70s here, I've done some TV evangelism. And so we've been preparing for this, of course. But seriously, dear Heavenly Father, dear God, we just pause in this Zoom call to recognize you and thank you for watching over our club and guiding us in ways that actually match the four-way test. We pray for just a great year ahead of us. We know under the leadership of Bryce, it'll be solid. And we just ask you to watch over all of our new board of directors and guide them in ways that glorify you. We pray this all in the precious name of your Son. Amen.
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 Okay, so I just have some recognition and some, awards for my board. And I just want to thank all of you guys for joining tonight, especially on this sunny day when we would probably rather be out somewhere. So I'm glad that this year is over with. I kind of got off to a rough start, and just when I thought we were getting the train back on track, we got hit with COVID, and it's just been kind of a wreck. But I'm glad that it's over, and although it was tough, I had a lot of support from many of you, and I never felt like I can't do this. So I just want to take some time to thank those of you that helped me along the way. So I'll just start with my board. Paul Ellis, he's not here, but Paul was the past president, and he did a great job of making sure that we kept meeting, having our president council meeting, and there were times where we really didn't have much to talk about, but Paul kept that going. Even when we switched to Zoom, he still kept it going, and that was a good, he was always there if I ever had any questions on what to do, or so I just appreciated that from him. Bryce was the incoming president, and he was always supportive and encouraging, and I appreciated his cut to the chase approach on things. So thank you, Bryce. And he would often send me text messages of encouragement and, good job doing this and that. And it was really nice, and I appreciated that. And Devin Rosard, he's the, or was the vice president. And Devin always gave me a good laugh. He always had good one-liners. He was very much opposed to meetings. And so he would try to limit that. And anytime we invited him to a meeting, he'd respond back with, I look forward to reading the notes on that. So, but he was at board meeting. He was great. He always attended, and I appreciated how he would listen to what everyone had to say, and then he would speak up, and it was kind of like an old wise man speaking. You know, you kind of would pause and be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So he was great person to have on the board. Al Erickson was the
community funding.
Community funding.
The what? The funding. And Al was really organized, and he right off the bat, he got with Cindy and asked her how much money we had to award out, and he just did a great job of gathering information for us if we had any questions on the grants that were being requested, and he just had a great way of presenting them and putting all that information together. So that was awesome, and I appreciated him being on the board and serving. So Yola was the club administrator, and she did a great job. I leaned on Yola a lot because she'd been a past president, and I don't know how she did it, because she had one of the most stressful jobs during this whole COVID period, but yet somehow she still managed to make meetings and be there if I ever had any questions, and just did a great job keeping things on track for us. So thank you, Yola, for that. I really appreciated.
Thank you. It's called DAVE, Dave.
Dave. Well, we're getting to Dave. AJ is our public relations, and AJ always made us look good. She did a great job with social media releases and newspaper articles. I would often get text messages from people that are not in the club, and they would say, oh, I saw this on Facebook, great job. And it was all because AJ, and she did a great job recognizing the Duck Dash sponsors, even though we didn't have an official Duck Dash. You know, we still did good. What did we end up raising, Yola? Like
48,000 so far.
48,000. So for a dry duck year, it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, AJ, for all the publicity that you did for the club. We all appreciate it. Cindy was also a past president, although she was treasurer this year. And Cindy was another person that I relied on if I had any questions. And right from the very beginning, we set up time to go to lunch, and she kind of showed me the ropes and helped me put a budget together for this year. So thank you, Cindy. I really appreciate that. Jennifer, secretary. Jennifer was often quiet at board meetings. She was frivolously scribbling away to capture everything that was being discussed. And once she was caught up, she'd kick me under the table to move things along. trying to keep the meeting on track and ending on time. So I appreciated her clever ways of finding a professional way of working my little jokes into the notes. So thank you, Jennifer, for being our note taker and secretary this year. And Kathy was foundation. And, you know, this was I thought it was going to be a tough year for foundation, but we did one last push in June via email, and a lot of you gave up your lunch money. So I appreciate that. And we were able to meet our goal for this year with those donations to the foundation. So, and Kathy did a great job of managing that for us. She won't be here tonight, but she had some Paul Harris's that she was going to present, but unfortunately we'll have to do a couple of those at a different meeting. And Leanne and Sue, wow, what a year for our youth services, right? I mean, with the exchange students, you know, trying to get one back and figuring out what we do with the exchange student that we had here. But all in all, it turned out to be good. And Leanne and Sue did a great job of managing that and working with the students. And I know Leanne had a dinner prepared for the grants that we did to the students, and unfortunately we weren't able to do that, but she did a great job of switching that to online, and we got to hear the students' plans for their future, and they thanked us for their grants, and hopefully next year we'll be able to have an in-person meeting, because I know she really put a lot of effort into planning that dinner. Jim Kelly. Jim was service projects, and Jim did service projects even on the way to board meetings. He picked up a stray dog and found its rightful owner. So
Seems like a lifetime ago.
I know. But that's just how Jim is. So Jim, thank you for the service projects that you did prior to COVID hitting. I know we had a great, was it Santa run, and the baskets that we did at Thanksgiving. So thank you for putting all that together. I know you're working on is it the blood drive that yeah.
That was Friday.
The blood drive happened already. It was a success.
Oh, good.
The photo album has already been posted up on the Club Runner, and you know, everybody had a good time, and we were able to get some blood out of 2 Rotarians.
Good.
Wow.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all that you do, all the projects that service projects you put together for us. We appreciate it. And I just want to thank everybody. All of you guys have been so supportive, and it's been made it a little bit easier during this difficult year. And so I just thank you for that. And a couple other people that I want to thank that weren't on the board, but they were very helpful throughout this year. Dave Duskin, he was our assistant governor, and he always kept me on track. I'd get emails from Dave to do this and do that. And he not only kept our club on track, but he kept 4 other clubs on track. So, and he did an excellent job of switching into Boomer Zoomer. Yeah, so I appreciate that, Dave. I appreciate you setting up these Zoom meetings and sending out the emails. So thank you for doing that. And Paul Abramovitz, he was always at the meetings setting things up, and he was our computer guy. And there were times where I'd send him a slide 5 minutes before the meeting, and I thought, oh, he's not going to get this up for this meeting, and somehow he would manage to do it. So thank you, Paul, for doing that and for
You're welcome.
and take down. And last but not least, Bob Campbell for programs. Thank you, Bob, for arranging the presenters. And Bob also early on got with Cindy and I and helped to prepare the budget, and he taught me all about contra accounts, and
We learned a lot.
we learned a lot. Yes. So thank you, Bob, for for all the help that you were for me this year. What else? So I just thank you again to everyone. There were many of you that supported me during this year, not just the board, but everyone. So I just, and there were some of you that, you know, my undercover supporters that were there when I needed to chat or a drink. So thank you to you guys. You know who you are. So I appreciate that very much. And so that's all that I have for tonight. We did have some Paul Harris's, but Kathy's not here. So, and I don't see John Peters on either. So I guess we'll just, I don't know, save those for next time.
Sure.
Okay. So Dave, Dave, you're up. You have some remarks?
I do. I'm going to help install Bryce. I need to go to the screen here. There's three. Bryce, of course, is the fourth Duskin to be president of our club. And we thought it would be kind of fun because it's the 50th anniversary of our club, to each of us to go through some of the history of the club, particularly why each of us were presidents of the club. And so I've got a PowerPoint here that I want to share with the group. And so it's entitled 50 Years of Service, Installation of President Bryce and Other Officers and Directors. Our club, of course, got started in 1970. And in April of 1970, the Everett Club decided that we should have a club up north. And so in April 6th of 1970, a group started meeting at what was then Denny's, or excuse me, the Turkey House, which is now Denny's at Island Crossing. And that was the root of the club. It was named well, of course, the 1970s is what we're celebrating, because in 1970 was when the club got started. But it was entitled originally, we were chartered as the Marysville North County, Washington, USA Club. The history behind it is that Marysville had a club years ago, back in the 30s, that had gone under because of the recession and that sort of thing, the Depression. And so the thought from Everett Club was to start a new North County club. And since Marysville had already been a club, they decided that the name should be Marysville North County, Washington. And they were chartered officially in June 20th of 1970. We were hoping, of course, to have a full-scale celebration of our 50th anniversary this year at the Angel of the Winds. Everything had been set up and ready to go. We were inviting all of the previous members we could locate, all the past presidents and that sort of thing. So it's really sad for me that we didn't have that celebration. Those of you that were around for the 40th celebration, it was a good time. I didn't join the club until 74, and it was still the Marysville North County Club at that time. We had about 40 members, about half of which were from Marysville and half from Arlington. And so one of the nice things about it as a local boy coming home to Arlington to practice law was I got to meet a lot of people from Marysville, and also there were a lot of new folks in Arlington that had joined Rotary because it was the new club. And rather than seeing me as little Davy Duskin down the street, it was a good start for me at practicing law in Arlington. So in 1970s, we started a family, and of course, Bryce Kelly Duskin was born on January 12 of 1976. He was a centennial baby, and that's who we're recognizing tonight. So I thought it was appropriate for me to show this picture of myself and my newborn Bryce. 2 years later, our family expanded and Brady was born. And this was, if you look at the dates, he was born on June 12, 1978, and I became president of the club in July 1, 1979. So we had a 2-year-old and a new baby at my house when I became president of the club. I might say one other thing that year, we had an exchange student from Brazil, and we had her living at our house. Her name was Virginia. She was a beauty queen from Brazil. She was a real looker. In fact, a lot of the ladies in town asked Kay, did you really let her live at your house? Because she was 16, but she was going on 23 or something, it seemed like. But we had a baby in the house at the time, and one of my favorite stories is taking her. I had a trial lawyers conference over on Lake Coeur d'Alene, and so Virginia went with us, and I thought it'd be great to show her the state. Well, it seems like as soon as we got in the car, she fell asleep, and she slept most of the trip, and we got over to Grand Coulee Dam, which I thought was really impress her. And I can still remember waking her up, and she looked over and she said, "Oh, that's nice," and then she went back to sleep. So, good story. I'm the 9th president of the Rotary Club. We were Rotary District 504 in those days. It included all of Vancouver Island. It included all of the peninsula. Our district governor was Donald McKenzie. That picture of me was a shot when I joined the law firm in 1974. So those plaids and those colors and those hairstyles continued right on into the 70s for sure. Our meeting place was Weller's Chalet. I think the woodcarver room has already been mentioned. That's where the meetings usually started about 11 o'clock, I think. I think maybe Gene might have been in there at 10:30, I don't know, but we would then move from the woodcarver room, a lot of us, into our meeting space. And Joe was an absolute fantastic host. He had managed the Everett Elks Club before he bought the restaurant from Bob Weller, or Bob Williams. Bob Williams was also a member of our Rotary Club. That chalet was Bob and Ann's before Joe purchased it, but because he was so well known in Everett, and we were right on the freeway, and we were about the only makeup place around, a lot of Everett Rotarians stopped by for our meetings, and I got to know a lot of Everett Rotarians, which was really kind of neat. As it was already said, our president, the year I was president of the Rotary Club, was Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer. That year, Muhammad Ali was appointed Leon Spinks on September the 15th for the heavyweight championship. So just to give you an idea of the time frame. Our fundraisers in those days, the senior center program last week mentioned the fact that it's the 50th anniversary of the senior center. Well, it's also the 50th anniversary of our Rotary Club. And so it was only natural when the club was looking for a service project that would benefit both the Arlington area and the Marysville area for us to take this on. Also, the hospital district, Cascade Valley Hospital, was a moving force in getting the senior center started. And its administrator and one of its commissioners, Bob Williams, who sponsored me in the Rotary Club, they were members of our Rotary Club. And so one of our first projects, I'm told, was to put a roof on the main building, which was built all by volunteers. And to raise money for the senior center every year, including my year, we had an Oktoberfest. And it was we brought in a band into the senior center. And Fred Beals, who had Savannah Meats, would always come up with a big baron of beef, and it would be given to Weller's Chalet, and Weller's would cook it up, and we would have brats, and we would have baron of beef and sauerkraut, and we had a good time at our Oktoberfest. Bob Campbell will tell you about one of his first experiences at the Oktoberfest was the beer drinking contest. In those days, we weren't so worried about liability, I guess. And so basically it was a chug a pitcher of beer contest. Later on in years, when we got more worried about liability, it turned into a kind of a relay where you'd drink a schooner of beer and then you'd put it on your head and the next person and so forth. So Bob will have to tell you more about that story. One of the things that happened our year was the Jamestown mass suicides. Now, you might wonder why I would even mention this. Well, Jim Jones was the president of our club, a different Jim Jones, of course, the year before I was president. He was the 8th president. And so we gave Jimmy Jones a lot of guff about the fact of this suicide. I remember we took a bus over to the Apple Cup later that November, and us all piling into a taxi cab and telling the driver that, yeah, we've got Jim Jones with us. And so that's the only reason I put that up here. Otherwise, a mass suicide wouldn't probably be the subject of an installation. So one of the things that happened during my year is I'd been, of course, born and raised in Arlington, and I had been the president of the Arlington Chamber of Commerce before I became president of the Rotary Club. And so one of my goals was to drop Marysville from our name. And even though it irritated a lot of the Marysville people, I was successful in lobbying and got our name changed to North Snohomish County Rotary. And that occurred in December of 1978. So other things, in 1979, we had full diplomatic relations with China. In January 21, Super Bowl 13, the Steelers defeated the Cowboys 35-31. That's why I guessed the Steelers earlier. In February, there was an intense windstorm that sank a half-mile of the Hood Canal Bridge. And then, of course, in June, McDonald's introduced the Kids Happy Meal of that year. And in June of 1979, just before I left office, the Seattle Supersonics became the world champions. And so I had to stick that in here. I also had to stick in a couple of photos of course, of the family since Bryce is being installed. I always love this picture. It says, and as I said, there's a new sheriff president in town, and it's Bryce. So. So with that, I'd like to turn it over. Dale was president in the 80s, and Dale's got a presentation to tell you a little bit about the club in the 80s. So Dale, take it away.
Presentation. You're so clever, Dave. I don't know what to say. You could allow me to screen share though, if you would.
I did. Everybody's screen shared.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? Oh, you got to unshare. You can't share at the same time, buddy. I know we're twins. We shared the same womb. We're womb mates. You got to quit? Oh.
There you are.
Okay. Well, you're so clever, Dave. You really are. The big years really for Rotary was 85, 86. That's when only men were in the club still. You could smoke in the club. Matter of fact, they smoked during the meal. They smoked after the meal. They smoked all the time. It was quite the deal. And I look back on it, I'm going like, how did we even survive through that period of time? 40th president of the United States, one of my very favorite of all time, is Ronald Reagan. And matter of fact, when I was president, I went by his motto, and that is, anything can be accomplished as long as you don't give a dang who gets the credit. So that's the 40th president of the United States. There's the 16th president of the Rotary Club of Arlington. You know, they were struggling to get anybody decent there, but you can see my hairstyle has not changed, and I still have my natural color. This is the classy North Snohomish County bulletin. I forgot what they called it. Maybe they called it something else, but I love this. I was the president-elect was Lloyd Mortimer, secretary was Glenn Mann, treasurer was Dennis Howard, and past president was Matt Maynard. So I followed Matt Maynard. And I believe, I'm just thinking that possibly Dick Post was secretary, and this is the meeting called to order by our leader, President Dale. Idle chatter and milling around ceased as Rod Graybill led us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Fred Beals. It's just wasn't that classy? Just classy stuff. And we talked about it. As a matter of fact, it said this reporter's pen was too slow to catch all of the guest names, but a hearty welcome to you all. So we're a lot more casual back then. 1985, 86, I mean, what happened big in the news? Well, how about Coca-Cola introduces new Coke? And that lasted 6 months, by the way, before there was protests up on in Seattle on Capitol Hill.
Capitol Hill.
Yeah, and they took over the Coca-Cola precinct, and 6 months later they went back to the regular Coca-Cola. CDs were introduced. Those are compact discs. Those were things you used to play music on, stuff like that. First.com is registered, and the first version of Windows is released. That's why they call it version 1.0. Mad cow disease hits the UK. Space shuttle Challenger explodes shortly after takeoff. People remember where they were on that day. Email protocol is defined in opens new communication. That was the first year they actually had email. And Chernobyl nuclear power state explodes. So you can see that I was working under a lot of dodging this and that. You think the virus is bad. Try that. This is where the real mentorship begins for Bryce. He would come into the pharmacy and have a big donut, and he'd come in through the door and, Uncle Dale, I've got a donut. And he would share donuts with me. And of course, we've gone on and we've shared a lot of great moments together. And I don't have any other ones to show. But Bryce, I know you're going to do just great this year. The best piece of advice I can give you is that very rarely will people ever remember what you say, but they will remember how you make them feel. I know it's going to be a great year.
So I think Corey's up. Corey, a long gap before Corey became president, but are you there, Corey?
Shit, I think I'm awake after all that. Well, for those of you outside my family, now you see what I have to deal with. So 2005, 2006, no problems at all. The world was great. We had no issues. No, we don't have to do a PowerPoint presentation to talk about it. I mean, we did have Katrina, so that was one thing. But remember, I was president after Dr. Harmon. So the nation was taking care of Katrina, we were dealing with picking up after the kind of the Hurricane Lee. So we spent most of our year doing that. And I wish Lee was on here because it was fun to follow Lee. Actually, what the biggest change at that time was we no longer met at Weller's. Uncle Dave gave me a call one morning and said, "Hey, where are we going to meet?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, Weller's is now closed." So that was really, at the time, a big thing. Obviously, compared to what's going on in the world now, it's kind of silly looking back at it. But at the time, with all that tradition, it was a big deal. And the other thing that most people don't know is our board in 2005, 2006 won the International Rotarian Best Board of the World. Now, if you go in and look, you're probably not going to find it, but because they took that award away because we were so high, we set the standard so high for 05 and 06 that they felt bad. But the point of that is honestly, Bryce is, as you can see and you know, for any success is to surround yourself with the best people possible. Rotary offers that. You have a great board. Let them do their work. I was blessed to have a wonderful board. They did amazing things. I know you're prepared for that as well, and you got great people around you. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for your board. I'm excited for the club. So with that, but only thing standing between me and you being president is me shutting up. So it's now back to you, bud.
Perfect. Thanks, Corey.
So Bryce, I have the honor of actually installing you. This is your dad speaking. If you didn't notice. So Bryce Duskin, the members of the Rotary Club of Arlington have chosen you to lead their club. When you were chosen, no one could have predicted that starting our club's second half century, that we would be in the middle of a pandemic at the time of your induction. There he is.
Oh.
Do you accept the challenge of keeping the club engaged during these difficult times, being mindful of Rotary's vision that together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves, and in keeping with the 5 core values of Rotary as reflected in the object of Rotary and the 4-way test, these being service, fellowship, diversity, integrity, and leadership? If so, answer I do.
I do.
As a past president of the Rotary Club of Arlington, a District 50/50 director, and as your father, I am proud to declare you installed as the 52nd president of the Rotary Club of Arlington. Now, I think maybe they already said their words of wisdom, but I'm going to ask your Uncle Dale and Cousin Corey if they have any more words of wisdom for you. Uncle Dale.
Well, I already gave it to him, I thought, but maybe you weren't listening, Dave. You might have dozed off there, but main thing is people are not going to remember what you say, but they remember how you make them feel, and I can't think of anybody better than you, Bryce, to do that. I'm proud to be your uncle and proud to be in Rotary with you.
Cousin Corey, are you there again?
I'm still here, Uncle Dave. I'm going to yield my time to Mr. Bryce because I'm excited to hear what he's going to do in his year.
Hey, Simona. Is Simona here?
Yeah,
Spotlight Simona.
what's that?
Can we spotlight Simona? Simona, I thought it was important to recognize you because nobody has done that yet. It certainly was a very challenging year, you know, and there are things in our lives that we just can't control. And, you know, I think your lightheartedness was what the club needed, you know, in times of uncertainty, because we're trying to still figure things out, you know, and I'd like to personally thank you. There is a Paul Harris for you, and I would have loved to have been able for you to get that tonight, but it's well deserved. So,
Yeah.
do you have did you get your award?
I did, yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to touch base about a few things, especially thinking about the time, you know, and Dale pointed it, you know, his presentation was just a reminder that bad things, you know, are dealt to us all the time in life, you know, and as long as we remember that it's just not us, that it happens to everybody, you know, that we can keep moving forward. We can be resilient, you know, in our effort. You know, we can focus things in a positive way instead of, you know, I wish that this was this, you know, we just have to keep as a group looking forward and thinking about the things that we have and not what we don't have. You know, and then also about what we are doing, you know, think about what we're doing. Is it helping us or is it harming us? And be kind to yourself. You know, there's a lot of mental issues right now. You know, it's hard to be isolated. It's, you know, and you always have to look at the silver lining. The other word that comes to mind is persistence. You know, since things have changed to Zoom, you know, COVID's given us an opportunity to try to figure out how to do things differently while still providing a positive impact to our community. And that's, you know, reassuring, you know, that we're going to be able to figure it out. You know, and the last thing that comes to mind is gratitude. You know, I touched on it already, but I think, you know, to think about the things that we have instead of the things that we're missing out on or we'd like to do. You know, I've been really grateful this year to spend, you know, a record amount of time with my 3 kids, you know, and Heidi. So I'm just very happy to be healthy and safe right now. So that's what I hope for our vision, you know, for the upcoming year is we're all going to make it through it. We all just need to remain positive, keep persistent, and keep the goal of keeping our community and the world, you know, a better place. So thank you very much.
So Bryce, you have a board also, and I think Dwayne Rhodes is is prepared to install your board of directors. Is Dwayne still with us?
Yeah. Yeah, ready to go.
Let's do her.
Okay. First of all, Dave, I was really struck by your comments about the 70s and impressed. That definitely was the decade of Star Wars. And it's clearly left its mark on all of us. When you start talking to Bryce by saying, Bryce, I am your father. Had me right there. Okay, congratulations to the directors and officers, President-elect Devin, Vice President Joe, Secretary Jenny, Treasurer Cindy, Past President Simona, Membership Chair Tony, Club Administration Chair Yola, Service Chair Jim, Rotary International Foundation Chair John, Public Relations Chair AJ, Youth Services Chair Jessica, and Community Funding Chair Eric. Congratulations on having earned the trust and respect and confidence of the club that they would ask you to serve in these capacities. I want to review, excuse me, very quickly, your general responsibilities as a board member. Leadership is defined more than anything else by being the duty expert on whatever it is that needs to be done. So read the Rotary literature that relates to your position if you haven't. There's online training available for all board members and directors at the Rotary Center. Please do that training. 4 of you who are present on this call are committee chairs. I hope you're planning to conduct regular committee meetings and that your agendas for those meetings will be set up under the goals for your committee in the club's strategic plan. Finally, I'd like everybody to be reminded there are no silos. Be willing to help other board members and be willing to accept help from them. We're all on the same team.
That's pretty.
You're expected to be faithful in your duties. And, you know, what's that mean? It means you should do what you're supposed to do no matter what, or at least try. It's that simple. So again, congratulations. Please answer yes if you will do your best in all these regards. Will you?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. You're now officially inducted. Yola, does this go back to you then?
I think Bryce will probably have some closing remarks, but I do have just one little thing. First, congratulations to Bryce. I know that this is going to be an interesting year, and I look forward to serving with you on the board. And big heartfelt thanks to Simona. It was a tough year from beginning to end, and you did a marvelous job, so great job. I do have a little something for everyone. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but I have a pin, and it commemorates our 50th anniversary. So we'll give these out to everyone when I'm able to see you. So I might start a delivery service. Anyway, happy 50th anniversary to the club. And thank you everyone for participating in this lovely evening. And I will turn this back over to Bryce.
Perfect. Thanks, Yola. Here it is. Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm optimistically hoping that we'll be able to see each other again in person, meet again in person before my presidency's done. In our club, we need that social interaction besides this. So I'm hopeful. Thanks for everybody that took their time on a Sunday, on a beautiful day. I know that they could have easily been doing something in the sunshine, so it's much appreciated. So with that, is there any other announcements at all? You want to cheers? Well, cheers. Meeting adjourned.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Congrats, Bryce.
Congratulations.
And welcome to the Past Presidents Club, Simona.
That's right. Best club ever.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely
That's
the best club ever, Simona. You got that.
I agree.
All right.
Well,
Thanks,
thanks,
everyone. Scary.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Bye.
One last time.
Have a great week.